Teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. To my regular listeners, you already know who you're talking to. You already know how I get down. Mr. ABC, always be connecting. And I had the pleasure of being a guest on a podcast titled Athletes to Athletes, hosted by Ryan Holmes, and I've become such a huge fan of it ever since. And, luckily he had a guest who's a former teammate of his, and I really resonated a whole lot with his story, whether it's from his upbringing to the things that he's involved in now. And I heard him on that show, and I immediately reached out and said, "Hey man, I got to get you on. We got to chop it up because there was so much that we can dive into." So with all of that, Mr. Darnell Corbin, welcome to the show.
Man, appreciate you having me, man. Listen. One thing I do know for sure, if you know Ryan, that means you're a good guy off the rip. So once you reached out, I'm like, yeah, I didn't even have to do a background. I already knew it was legit. And then when I started digging in, I'm like, okay, yeah, this guy's really legit. So salute to you and everything that you have going on. I said it off camera. I'm going to say it on. I'm super excited to be here.
Okay, glad you started with that, because listeners, we're dropping gems very, very early. Nowadays, there's so many resumes, so many people reaching out, messaging this, that, and the third. It's your job to create a vetting process. You hear what he said? He knew Ryan. I knew Ryan, and once he knew I was good with him, immediately he was able to say, okay, that's a good person. That does not happen overnight. It happens because of a mindset, a process, and making sure that your circle and your peer group, PEER, your peer group is tight. Very, very valid lesson for you guys to take in early. I'm dropping the gem early for you guys, all right?
That is a big gem. Huge
right.
Gem.
So here's where I resonate with you, because you came up in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And as you said, even on Athletes to Athletes, there was so much NFL talent around you that there was kind of a standard around. Like you mentioned the name Dwayne, like as soon as you mentioned Dwayne Jarrett, I remember him at USC doing his thing, and even playing at Stony Brook. There was, I remember we had a guy who's from Piscataway, and we were watching the draft that year, and it was like Jersey, another guy out of Jersey going out the first round, that whole thing. So I would love for you to just start just how you came up, and what was it like playing in an area that just had so much talent and was like filled with NFL talent, and then kind of go from there.
Oh man, you hit it right on the head. It's the standard, right? And I feel like nowadays a lot of people are afraid to like uphold a standard or have a standard, or what I mean by that is have people check them when they need to be checked without them feeling some type of way, even whether they're your age or someone older. And that's how it was. It was a standard. Like I said on the podcast, my freshman year, we lost one game, and they looked at us like we went 0-12. So right then and there, we knew, right, all right, we have to get to it. And then growing up in the inner city, right, there's so many things that you could do that's not the right thing to do. So you kind of grow up and you want to gravitate to people who are doing the right thing, those who want to change their environment. And the guys that I looked up that I mentioned, like Dwayne Jarrett from an athlete standpoint, Jonathan Casillas, who won 2 Super Bowls. And these guys are like, great in the classroom, and then also dope on the field, and then also, cool around the school. So it's not like they were one dimensional. So from an early age, once I started, 13, 14, you're trying to figure yourself out. I had guys like that, names that I didn't got, like Altri Balam, he played at Akron, Dwayne played at USC, Andre Dixon played at UConn, Marvin Teller, UConn, Kareem Byron, Buffalo. So these guys were like setting the standard academically and on the field. So all of that had me thinking like, man, listen, there's more than just New Brunswick, New Jersey. As I was figuring myself out, I use that as a part of my building blocks, outside of my upbringing, my parents, and, my guidance from like mentors that I gravitated to, as well as just being self-motivated. That standard right there was set high, and being around it, you have no choice to be great, because if you don't, you'll get left behind, to be honest with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's just you have no choices to elevate yourself, or you're going to get left behind.
Right. I say it all the time because, again, my my high school, it's Good Counsel High School, and it has produced tons of NFL talent. And the thing is that I posted this the other day. It's not that, okay, those dudes made it to the league and I didn't, and I'm jealous. No, if you put in the work, you're going to start to get inspired to do some major things in your own life. Because again, when you're on the field, the talent isn't going to lie. I mean, look, dudes better. There's just dudes that are better players, but that does not mean you're a failure. Some people just win the genetic lottery. They're naturally gifted, and hey, they're just better. They're better players. You're going to try hard, you're going to work hard, but at the end of the day, they're just better football players. That is not an excuse for you to start giving up on life. And I love the fact that you mentioned that these dudes were not too cocky. These dudes got it done in the classroom. They didn't just let their athletic ability take care of them, because they understand that now there's kind of a repel there. They're attracted. They're attracting people. They're attracted young minds, and it's important for them to be a role model, even though they may or may not be ready. Because for you, and you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, like, when you talked about your ability or your college experience, you knew what you wanted to do. Like, you went to Wilkes University, which, I'll be honest, I've never even heard of before
Right.
I heard the podcast.
Same.
But your experience there was like, yo, you came in knowing what you wanted to do, had it planned, the whole nine. So, feel free to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head too. Sports, growing up, everybody, from 3-2-1 shooting the last Vic and jumper, we thought we were gonna be Jordan. As soon as you put
Yes.
a helmet and pads on, you thought you were going to NFL. But there's a point in my life where I got to 5'7" and didn't get any higher. I was like, okay, cool, this NFL thing is not gonna happen, but I can utilize my talent to get me to where I'm going. And that was like free education, or getting enough of my education paid where I'm not buried in debt when I graduated. So I knew that jumping in. So when I went to Wilkes, football was a priority, but I knew it wasn't the end goal. So I picked my school. Number one, I went to a very mostly minority-based school, heavy Hispanic, African-American. So me, I wanted to go to a diverse school off the rip, because I knew in the real world, you have to be willing to sit in different rooms with people who don't look like you, talk like you, and come from the same walks of life as you. So that was number one. Number two was like, all right, where can I go and play right away? Being that I knew I wasn't going to NFL, I was like, all right, I needed to go somewhere where I can at least get an opportunity to play as a freshman, to enjoy my last 4 years of football. So that was like number two, and Wilkes gave me that opportunity. They said, hey, you can come in and compete as a freshman. Cool, let's get it. And then the third thing was, I knew I wanted to get in entertainment. Communications was like my thing growing up. Stuart Scott was like, someone that I looked up to. Just, I was in love with music, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something that was not your traditional 9 to 5. And then they had a studio, and you could have the opportunity to go in as a freshman and you utilize some of the equipment, rather than other than other schools, you had to wait to get deep into your major to get that access. So.
Right. Now, just out of curiosity, though, I mean, it's great. And first of all, let me just break that down for the listeners. Before he got to college, he had a 3-part plan, and this is something important for you parents as well, who may be struggling with the recruiting process, trying to figure out where you want to go, wondering why Nick Saban isn't calling you or anything like that. Really, you know what I'm saying? Right. It's really important that you go out and do the recruiting yourself. He just laid out a very, very important aspect that so many of you high school athletes are missing, because you're thinking that somebody's going to come with an offer. No, you start to be the recruiter. But when it comes specifically to what you wanted to do after you were done playing, you said you knew entertainment, you knew being in like the broadcasting world. But when you were playing, podcasts and all that kind of stuff didn't exist. When you were playing and you were wanting to do it, there's so many ways. There's live streams now. There's so many ways of communicating, and you graduated with a communications major. What kinds of ways did you feel like you've had to adjust or adapt into this new world when it comes to how things are done?
Man, you hit it right on the head. When I started, it was Uvo, and Skype was the biggest thing, and that was like just something.
Oh my God, I remember that.
And if
I forgot about Uvo.
Yeah. For those who are in that age range, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it was a lot of like, burning CDs. So when I started, I had a radio station, and radio was the thing back in the day, right? Everybody wanted to get on radio, because that was one of the only outlets outside of being in front of a camera that you can get your voice heard to the masses. So at the time, I was at the age where digital was becoming a thing, Facebook, YouTube, and all that stuff, but we were still stuck in that era where it's like, now radio or bust. So Adapting to that was I was just willing to do the work and do the research and not stay stuck in my ways, right? I see a
Mhm.
lot of people who are like who at the beginning wasn't willing to adjust and adapt to the new things such as the podcast or the vlogging and all that stuff. I embraced all of it. Every social media outlet that came out, I even if I wasn't going to dive deep into it, I learned it or understood it, and if it worked for what I was looking to do, I made sure that I made it a priority to learn it to grow my expand my network on there. For me, it was just staying on top of the time, staying current, just being willing to adapt and adjust, and not being stuck in my ways. Understanding that radio was the goal, but it wasn't the end goal. Like I just always had like what's next. So even
Mhm.
when I did radio, it was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna start this college radio station, but what do I want to get out of it? What I wanted to get out of it was an opportunity to create a demo so I can get an internship at a bigger radio station. And I
Mhm.
think that's, you're talking general. I think that when people are formulating plans and things like that, you always got to think about what's next, even if it's a small thing, right? See, people are afraid to walk because they can't jog, but if you go in the mentality like I'm gonna walk because the next thing I want to do is to jog, well then you'll take walking very seriously because you want to be able to be good at jogging. So
Mhm.
that's just something that I always had, and the will that I always had, and the willingness to be like a sponge and a clay, a wet piece of clay, constantly molding myself, not staying stuck in my ways is how I've been able to navigate over like 15 years now.
Well, you actually, and I'm glad you brought this up because you actually did face a very, very huge decision your senior year of football. All right. You had an internship with a very, very prominent radio station back then, a radio station that I listened to even to this day. And again, you had to take the internship opportunity, but then it meant, do you play your senior year of football, which is a decision that really, really, I mean, I'll say it fucks up a lot of people when
Yeah,
you gotta make the decision to let go of those. It fucked me up. Even to this day, I'm still fucked up about it because when you gotta make the decision to hang up those cleats, it
bro.
is not an easy decision. And it was kind of forced on you because you had to pick what you're gonna be doing for the rest of your life versus something that is just, a few months away from being over. So, dive deeper into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna just piggyback right there real quick. It makes it
Yeah.
even harder when your last play is you giving up a touchdown to lose a game, right?
Oh God.
My
Oh God.
last play, we we
Yeah.
we
That
got we got to a bowl
stings.
game, bro. We got to a bowl game, and I'll never forget. We got to a bowl game, and my coach, I was an aggressive corner, so a lot of teams knew that, and they'll hit me with like it wasn't a double move thing. It was a screen and go. Like they'll run the bubble, fake a bubble screen, and the person behind them run the wheel.
Mhm.
And me just not being disciplined in my assignment, bit on the wheel, and the guy got behind me. He didn't score, but they got to like the 3 yard line, and you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Momentum. We're away on the road, so momentum was in their favor. We lost, so that's like I just
Listen,
want to
my
pay.
junior year, I dropped it in a junior year of high school. I dropped an interception that would have won us the game. This junior year in high school. I'm 34 years old now, Darnell,
Right, and you
and I
still,
still haunts
bro,
it haunts
it
me
still
to
haunts
this
me to this
day.
day. It haunts to this
Oh
day, man. I
God,
never.
you actually just brought it back. So
Oh man, and I never forget because right there, and it's so weird because it's college. Is you hear NFL players know when they want to hang it up, right? When they do their
yeah.
retirement speech. But right then and there, because I kind of knew where I was going in life. I interned at Power 105 my junior year, and I knew the possibility of a senior year opportunity was going to come, and I knew I
Hmm.
was going to have to make that decision. So after that game, man, I remember my dad met me at like the 50-yard line, and I just cried, bro, because I knew I was done, right? But again, that goes back to like your principles and your values that you lay out for yourself. I think a
Hmm.
lot of people and throughout life who have come to experience some type of hardship or hurdles,
Hmm.
not majority of the time is it's just life kicking your ass, but
Hmm.
sometimes it's you going derailing and coming off your mission or
Hmm.
going against your values or going against your morals. And I try to like lay out values and morals throughout my life that I stick to my guns about, right? And
Hmm.
one of them was like, all right, use football to get to school. Check. Use football to set up the next move. All right, check. Now one of my values was like, all right, get to school and try to set yourself up, not for the next 5 months, but for the next 5 years. I had that opportunity looking right in front of me.
Hmm.
So I don't, it was a hard, it's weird because it was a hard decision, but it was a very easy decision at the same time. Like it was hard because of my love for the game, right? I grew like if you play any type of sports, man, it's just tough, whether it's pickleball or football, bro. It's just
Yeah.
tough. So that was the hard part. But the easy part was I already laid my values out, and I'm not going against what I said. And I, even at the age of 21, I knew this was it. Football was great,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it wasn't going to, I don't even want to sound cliche, but it wasn't going to pay my bills to fulfill me 5 years from now. So I didn't want to give it that much control over my life,
Mm-hmm.
just for like a quick fix when I had so much other great things going for me at the time. You know, to your point, they were
Mm-hmm.
just starting the Breakfast Club up, which, my internship, we had an opportunity to sit in on those brainstorms, and
Mm-hmm.
myself helped formulate that. So to see that come to fruition, I was like, man, I'm not going to pass up an opportunity to be here and be a sponge or a fly on the wall for the grand opening. And if you look at it now, 10, 15 years later, they're still the number one breakfast morning show, and they're on BET, and Charlemagne's elevated, and Angelique's doing her thing now, and DJ MV's been doing great. So that was an opportunity for me I couldn't pass up. So it was a hard one, but again, it was an easy one because I stuck to my guns, and I stayed in line with my values that I set for myself at 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, I mean, you beat me to it, and I really do think it's important that we go back to the beginning when we expressed and you knew this was NFL talent. Those are the ones that are going to get paid to play this game. So a lot of times what does happen in certain situations like that is there are coaches who will gas players up. At a school like I was at a division of FCS program. They'll gas players up and make it so they feel like they got a shot, And here's what happened in my situation. It wasn't my class. It was the 2 years underneath me. He cut the entire class. So we went from an FCS program to basically, we were a weak FCS program. Then we took Hofstra's spot at Stony Brook. So we were in the C. Yeah, we took CAA, and we was getting like Rutgers talent. We were getting a lot of the FBS guys to transfer. So once we made that move, Coach P cut the entire freshman class. Cut him. He cut him.
Wow.
He cut the entire freshman class. I remember Taj texted me that day. His entire class of 09 got cut. These Division I players that were told how great they were a few years ago were cut just like that. Boom. And for you guys who are listening, the ones who just basically, took the scholarship for granted, didn't go to class, didn't take advantage of the actual academic opportunity that the school was offering, they don't know what to do. Just like that, I'm done.
Right.
But some of the other folks like Atachu was taking advantage. He was making sure he was playing. He was doing beats at the time. He's playing beats at parties. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's just hustling his shit out. Hey, they got opportunities. So again, take advantage of the opportunity you're getting on these college campuses, and do not let the coaches gas you up. They're going to go and get younger. They're going to go and get better recruits. That's just what's going to happen. It's on you to take advantage of it. All right.
Yeah.
And I
man,
want to,
you're killing it right now. No, you're dropping so many like phenomenal gems that kids nowadays need to hear, man, because a lot of times, man, especially nowadays with the viral moments that they look for, they chase, and the opportunities where, Huddy is presenting these kids with a lot more exposure than we had. We had to get your tape on a VHS, right? So these kids are like going out here and they're thinking that they're bigger than what they are. And then when they go to school, which I'm pretty sure you saw yourself, when you go to college, a lot of kids don't realize whether it's D3 or D1, everybody was somewhat the man where they're coming from. So
exactly.
it's a tough field for the
I went
squad.
from D2. I started at D2 school. And to be honest with you, these D2 players would have beaten Stony Brook. Like it would have, I mean, it might not have been a blowout, but it was definitely going to be a good game because Stony Brook was a weak FCS. Hofstra was still a program. So they were losing a lot of the major recruits in New York to Hofstra. So what happened was when I got to Stony Brook, Hofstra cut their program. All of a sudden, Stony Brook becomes like the second tier to Rutgers in Syracuse. It happened just like that.
Yeah. I remember when they cut their program.
That was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. Especially because they were having such great success with what's his name that went to NFL from Hofstra.
Marcus Colston.
Marcus Colston, exactly. Played for the Saints.
Marcus Colston was like the dude. I didn't see that coming. I really didn't see that coming.
So yeah, I can see how people felt how that did. So
it lost him, man. And again, I think you did mention the fact that you were an aggressive corner, and being an aggressive corner does take a mindset to be out there on the islands. But you've kind of applied that mindset to your endeavors. You've applied it to the way you go after jobs. So let's just kind of talk a little bit about what happened after the Breakfast Club? I know you were at Slam at one point. You were, was it CNBC at one point?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
were jumping around a lot of different places. And, you know, again, that aggressive mindset is what landed you in your position now with Live Nation.
Yeah, man. So when I got done playing football, when I got done at Breakfast Club, Clear Channel Radio is a parent company of Breakfast. They hired me twice. But at a young age, I was young and reckless. So, like, for those who are listening, make sure, man, your driving record and your background is huge, man. Some people don't think it goes hand in hand. It does. My background check was clean. My driving records was dirty. So, like, I got too many speeding tickets, and at the time, they had a code where you couldn't have X amount of points on your license. And being that I had 2 speeding tickets before the age of 22, they couldn't hire me because I wasn't approved to drive the company vehicle. So that crushed me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So that
No.
crushed me. Yeah. So I always tell kids, bro, it's like, I'm blessed to have mentality where I was able to bounce back, but that could kill you, mentally if you're not strong enough to kind of bounce back because it's your fault. So you take accountability, right? Can't
Right.
blame
And this
anyone.
was after you found Charlemagne and Angelique and Dean.
Yeah.
So you knew what you could do. Like, you knew
Yeah.
what you were able to do.
Bro, I knew I could, and that was like I was telling Ryan, man, I knew I belong. I'm like, bro, I can do this,
Yeah.
And when I got that news 2 times after my junior year, they were like, all right, we're not gonna hire you, do a defensive class, come back, intern again, and then try again after you graduate. And I did it, and both times they denied me. So
Oh,
once that happened, I had to try to figure it out where I knew I was like, yo, I'm gonna keep pushing. So again, like you said, take advantage of your opportunities. When you work for a prominent company like that, a lot of people want to get next to you. A lot of people, you meet a lot of people. A lot of times, like, when you drop those, those names in like interviews and stuff, people want to kind of take you in as a resource because you've been working for a bigger company. So when I graduated and I didn't get hired at the Breakfast Club, I ended up working for a small company called eventbug.com, which was a digital website where people pretty much, if you're looking to party, figuring out where to go out in the city, you go to the website and they will be able to like guide you to where you wanted to go, which was great at 22. I'm in all the biggest clubs in the city. The guys I was working for were the biggest promoters at the time in New York. So it was a great opportunity, but they were only paying me literally like $600 every 2 weeks.
right.
I'm coming from New Jersey going to Brooklyn, right? And if you ever did that commute, that's a long commute and an expensive commute.
Yeah.
So, so I'm
600
really
every 2 out there. I know you preachers the choir. No,
yeah.
that is
So
not, that's not, I
it's
mean,
not
you're getting
easy,
the experience, yes, but
but
I mean,
yeah, financially, and
financially, you got to really get creative with that.
you really do. And at the time, I got hired at Enterprise at the same time, so I could have gotten, which is not life changing money, but I would have been able to get stable income instead of I took this job where it was under the table. Sometimes my payment was late, sometimes it was on time, sometimes it was half. So, but again, knowing what you want to do, sticking to the course. So I did that for a little bit, and then when that shut down, I was just trying to figure out what next to do. And I was working for an IT recruiting firm. Did not like it. It was one of those. That's when I realized like chase the opportunity, not the check. That's when that value came into my life because
Mm-hmm.
it was paying well. People are great. I still kick it with the people nowadays to this day who own that company. But for me, as a fulfillment level, it wasn't fulfilling me like I wanted to. So I just started my own thing. I had the resources in college. I was DJing in college, so I knew music on that aspect. Then I started working for the event bug, so I started shaking in New York with a lot of people, and then just work again, just having a good name with working at Power and people knowing me from there. So for 5-6 years, I was doing my own thing, doing events, DJing, traveling, doing stuff of that magnitude, working with different artists. Had an opportunity to work with Tatiana Ali on some marketing stuff. I was a
Mm-hmm.
DJ for Mike Zombie, who produced Started from the Bottom for Drake. And me and him was on tour, did a couple of the shows. And so it was great. But then I became a dad. And when you become a father, man, your life kind of, you start thinking 15 years from now and not 15 minutes. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
knew I had to kind of lay down a better foundation for her. So I
Mm-hmm.
jumped back into the market. And this is why, I think it's always important, even if you're a party promoter or somebody who's just
Right.
doing anything, you should always create an LLC. LLCs are cheap and or either they're cheap or they're free, depending what kind of LLC you could create. And what
Mm-hmm.
that does, it legitimizes your business to where you can actually create a resume. And when people do a background check, your business is an actual registered business and you're not just throwing pie in the sky. So I
Mm-hmm.
say that to say this because being that I had this entertainment company that I was running, I was doing the invoicing, I was doing the marketing, I had these marketing, EP PK kits, and I was doing all this cool stuff and I'm documenting it, and I'm able to articulate it in a resume. I had 5 years experience in the entertainment space, probably 6 or 7, including my internship. So I was
Right.
able to jump back in it with my degree and that experience that I created for myself by starting my LLC and running my own business. So I was able to land a job at CNBC as a contractor. And I was like, as soon as I get my foot in the door, I'm not leaving. That's just my
Yeah.
mentality. So
Yes.
contract went into perm, and that started my journey within like the big entertainment media companies. And what I always tell people there's not a lot of people who own, like, you may see certain subsidiary companies, but there's really like 6 companies that own everything.
Yeah.
And I'm
A lot of people don't know that. Yeah,
yeah.
I think BT has like Viacom, and like Viacom owns all that, I believe.
Yeah,
A
it's like
lot of
it's
people
like
really don't know.
it's like NBC Universal, Viacom, like Time Warner, and Time Warner, Viacom, and Paramount is pretty much the NBC Universal, Comcast is pretty much the big wigs. And
Well,
so
actually, recently we could see Disney, 700
Disney,
people.
ABC, right? That's what I forgot. Disney, yeah, Disney it's probably the biggest of the biggest. So
Right.
so I knew if I can get NBC on my resume, I would have the opportunity to kind of control my destiny if I do the right thing there. And I love CNBC, man. To this day, I talked to the guy who gave me an opportunity. I'm very super grateful. Bust my ass while I was there doing all the things that people didn't want to do, which I tell people.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not being the smartest person in the room, it's being the hardest worker in the room, learning things. I learned how to like set up the Zoom meetings in the conference room when people didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm. And
I
this was
became
before COVID, like, so before it actually
yeah,
became.
before COVID, before it
Yeah.
became a thing, conference calls. I work with the Avid team to learn all that stuff. The engineers there. I was setting up, I was keeping the swag closet organized, like all the dirty work. So where people you create value for yourself, because then when you leave, they're like, yo, so who's gonna do that? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So when
They
I went
don't
to
get it till you're gone. They really don't understand
they
those
don't
little things.
understand it, the little things until you're gone. And then when I left, I had an opportunity to stay, but I decided to continue pushing forward, and I ended up at Paramount, which was phenomenal for me. So I'm working at MTV, VH1, all the brands that I grew up on. Had an opportunity to work at the VMAs as a marketing manager. So I think I kind of want to pause it because I don't think I mentioned how I got into marketing.
Yeah, go.
But so yeah, so I ended up at marketing at NBC Universal, again based off of my entertainment marketing experience. And I
Mhm.
found and when I was at Clear Channel Radio interning, I was in the marketing and promotions department as well as the programming. And I always like how the back end worked too, as
Mhm.
much as the front end. I realized there's not a lot of spaces in front of the camera, right? Because
Right.
there's only but so many slots they can fill, but there's a whole bunch of opportunity behind the camera. And so
Mhm.
once I learned that, I just kind of want to paint that picture for people that sometimes, yeah, I wanted to be in front of the camera, but sometimes
Right.
you got to derail a little bit. Still working within the space that I love, but understanding that there's more opportunities in marketing. So I
Right.
dived first there. So fast forward, I was a marketing manager at Paramount, and then being a basketball sports savant, I had an opportunity at Slam that I couldn't pass up to be the marketing director there.
Mhm.
Again, I have NBC Universal on my resume now. I have Paramount, which is Viacom, CBS, and then now I got Slam, which is entertainment, but from a publication standpoint. So I'm just at this point just rounding out my resume.
Right.
So
Well, there's two pieces. There's two pieces that I really want to kind of extract from that. That
yeah,
is very important for you as a listener to go through, especially if you're in that transitional phase where you're graduating college and it kind of feels like the world's on your shoulders. Number one is he became a dad. And number two, he was already DJing on his own grit and grind. Okay, so you have this IT position, the money's coming in, it's good. Again, there's this right there. It's served to you. Just settle, Darnell. Go ahead, settle. Settle
right,
for that check,
right,
settle for that
right,
salary. But there was
right,
something in him that said, look, I'm gonna drive to Brooklyn, $600. I don't give a shit about the money. I'm gonna make sure I get this experience. And then I got this baby girl that is like my world now. Now I
right,
can no BS. So there was an element there where you're doing something that you love. You're not getting paid a lot, but now again, you have to think about that little girl. And everything just kind of changed from that perspective. So the conversations you're having, the interviews you're having, the confidence, the making sure, hey, I know my shit. I'll do this swag. I'll make sure I do Zoom room. All these little things come into play because of what's happening on the inside. Now,
right,
listen, again, I get you love this podcast, but it's about what's burning up on the inside of you that's going to make it so you show up in the world and you get what you want. Those are the things that I want to extract from his story, because it can easily get brushed over with all the, he's mentioned in Slam, he's mentioned in these big Paramount, all these companies, but it really started from the inside. It really started from within. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And,
Right.
if you can dive deep into, because it started from what was burning on the inside of you.
Right, man. You hit it right there. You got to have that. It always has to come from within. And a lot of people, when they see the success, and that's anywhere, whether it's myself, you, or the biggest moguls in the world, people just think that they wake up one day and they have these platforms or this what you quote unquote whatever that success may be. But there's the backstories that a lot of people don't really get to hear, which I love, like my journey and my grind. I love telling people I got shut down twice. I love to tell people that, bro, when I got that internship at Power, I was a senior in college, and that was, you have your capstone and all those senior projects you have to do that you cannot adjust. Like if you don't do these projects and you don't make the deadline, you do not graduate. So there was a class I had to take on a Tuesday night, and it was only serving it on Tuesday nights in Pennsylvania. This was before Zoom classes and all that other stuff. You had to physically be there. Like, so I would drive from my house in New Brunswick to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is 2 hours and 10 minutes away, on
every Tuesday,
every Tuesday afternoon. And then I have to turn right back around. I had to turn right back around because I had to be at the Breakfast Club on Wednesday at 5 a.m. You know what I'm saying? So that's like that fire that I just tell people, like, yeah, it's cool, like, the name dropping and be around it, but it has to come within, right? And I'm getting out of class at 9 p.m., driving 2 hours away. The last train leaves New Brunswick at 2:30 in the morning. So I had to come home, take a nap, make sure I got on that train. And then I couldn't get into the station until 5:30. So I had to sleep literally in the train station because I couldn't get in the building until I was able to hop on the subway and go to the Breakfast Club. So these are all things that, like, people don't hear, like the amount of times I got told no, the amount of times I applied, right? The nights where you just like taking cuts because you want the opportunity rather than, missing out on the opportunity, missing trips. When you're an entrepreneur, at my age, I was an entrepreneur at 24, 25, and that's when all my boys were getting into their jobs, making a little bit of money. So they're traveling, they're living life. Saturdays, they're inviting you to birthdays, but I'm working the weekend, so I'm missing all of that. You know what I'm saying? But it's the sacrifice that I had to take so I can get to where I'm at today. So even when I left, even and to your point where you mentioned like sticking to your purpose, we talked about that earlier, your values. When I left Paramount, it was a money move, right? It was like, oh, I'm gonna get this salary bump, but I always, like I said, my value is always chase opportunity, not the money, right? And I ended up getting laid off 6 months after me starting there, and I mean, granted, was like a damn moment, but it was also a moment to remind me that your purpose, bro. Whatever your purpose is, if you're stuck, if you're in a great situation, don't leave a great situation because someone's shining a gold watch in front of you, or a little bit of money, or whatever you have your eyes set on, or whatever you think is valuable. Stick within your purpose, because you'll get reminded about that in the worst way. So when I got laid off, that was a reminder for me, and I knew it was a reminder because I was able to find Live Nation faster than most people were supposed to find, who have been laid off, find jobs. I was blessed to say that, and to go to a great company like Live Nation, and doing what I love back in the event space, that doesn't happen often. And so I know I'm blessed to be able to find a job 6 weeks after being 6 to 8 weeks after being laid off. So I knew that was just a slap on my hand to stay within my purpose. So now, like, my purpose is way clearer, and there's no amount of money that I can pull from. It has to feel right. It has to be the right opportunity for me. Of course, if that comes in it and the money's attached to it, great. But I'm not just going to leave a great situation anymore moving forward for the monetary gain. And I think that's very important for people to also understand as well.
Yes, I believe it was John Maxwell who famously said, he gets a lot of people coming up to him and say, hey, I want to do what you do one day, as I'm sure you do. But he always asks him, do you really want to do what I did? Do you really want to go sleep in train stations? Do you really want to drive 2 hours every 2 days? Like, I mean, do you want to do what I actually did? That is the real question. Do you want to do what I did? So, let's dive into your role at Live Nation. What do you do there? How does it work? And I know you mentioned that you actually do love the position. So let's dive into that.
Yeah. So I'm a senior brand manager there, working within national brand team. So my client is, for instance, is all the media partners, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. And we do is we find ways to work with brands to integrate them into our IP through those media partners.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, let's just take Levi Jeans, for instance, if they wanted to do like an AR filter with Snapchat at a Live Nation festival,
Okay.
my team will help marry that relationship and we'll drive the execution for that.
Mm-hmm.
So this summer alone, I've been at 6 festivals. Next week, I'm going to Rolling Loud, and I have Lollapalooza in Chicago, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm blessed to travel a lot for work and go to some of these venues and artists, and see some of the biggest artists in the world. But at the same time, like you said, it's hard work because while people are partying there, my job is to make sure that the jumbotron has the right marketing assets on there.
Yeah.
The AR filter is working. The client is happy. When
Yeah.
you work in brand management, most of it is people skills, because you have to be willing to, number one, crisis manage when things aren't going well, and also be able to work with different people and from all walks of life and kind of like get what their message across, but also understand what the company guidelines are, the things that you are willing to, that you can do and can do. So that's all, my job in a nutshell: brand management, working across the national, even international festivals. I have a couple of festivals in the UK that I'm working on.
Mm.
And again, just working with our media partners there, and different liquor brands and all type of cool brands, beverages like Coke and Bacardi and stuff like that we've worked with since I've been here. I started in April, so I'm still fairly new, but with any industry or business, there's not a lot of onboarding. Like, you get thrown in the fire. And so I've been rather busy this summer, which is a good thing, because as an athlete, you kind of get a playbook on Monday, and you have 3 days to install and have to be flawless on Friday nights and Saturdays. So, you
Got to get
know,
it done.
so you got to get it done. And to me, I think that's a correlation for sports. I don't think there's nothing greater as far as life lessons from an early age. There's so many things you learn from sports that you can't learn from anywhere else. And that's one of them, being able to adjust and understanding that, on Sunday you'll get a playbook, but literally I played offense in high school, and every week the install was different. In college, every week. See, in high school, we ran the same base coverage. Every week you're gonna run the same coverage. In college,
Exactly. Out here, and I'm in South Florida now, in Miami Northwestern. They just every single game, whether it's Northwestern or Miami Central, they don't
right.
even have to, they're man to man. Just go play with them. They feel
Yeah,
like they
exactly.
just have to.
Exactly. It's just like, yo, I got a dog, you don't. So we're gonna just have him do what he does best. And college is more of a strategy. So every week, man, you could be running a 3-3-5 one week, and then the next week, coach like, oh, we're gonna run a 4-3 because that's the best way to, so you're learning a whole different defensive scheme, from the calls to the checks. Of course, you have your base calls that you go back to. So yeah, but all that stuff kind of molded me into like what I am now. One thing I do pride myself on is being a people person and a leader. So that kind of got me to where I'm at as well. I was captain on my high school team, my all-star game. I was captain in college. I was a captain as a sophomore. And those are all things for me that I wear as a badge of honor, just because, man, that captain, when you get awarded a captain award, that's voted about 9 times out of 10
Yeah,
by your peers. And to be at college, I'm in college, and if you play college sports, there's no age limit. So I'm
right.
19 years old, and people on my team are like 25, 26. You know what I'm
Yeah, as a
saying?
sophomore, that no more normally sophomores don't get that vote.
Yeah. So that was like big, and it helped me to get where I'm at now, and being able to like be a calming voice among chaos. And I think that's like the best way to describe working in any type of industry, but especially entertainment industry, because you have to deal with artist egos, you have to deal with ever-changing platforms coming up. Now you have threads, right? That's like a thing now. So now you got to kind of understand how that works and operates, because there may be an opportunity there for clients that they want to be able to like, integrate their brand there. So you kind of always have to be willing to like organize your thoughts, organize the chaos, and be able to execute without any excuses. Because in any industry, whether you're working at McDonald's or you're working for, or you created McDonald's, people don't care about what happened or how this happened. They want to know, okay, how can we fix it and what's the results? So,
Right. And also mentioned too the whole not being starstruck around folks. Again, everyone's out at these festivals, they're drinking, they're partying, they're doing whatever, and they seeing let's say it's a Drake and they're oh my god, you
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
don't have that luxury of getting starstruck around folks. You gotta, like you said, make sure that the LED is working, this ad is this time, and like you don't really
Right.
get a chance to enjoy the festival like 98% of the people that are there.
Right. No, for sure. And people think like, oh man, your job is this, and it's great. I'm blessed. It's a great opportunity. It is great jobs, but it's not what you think. I'm not rolling up and I'm just chilling and watching these guys perform for 8 hours, 6 hours at a time.
Hmm.
It's a lot of work. But for me, like even growing up, I just always saw celebrities and people of that stature as people that I admire but never idolized.
Yes, I can't believe we have to bring this up. We have to mention this. He, like myself, has a Caribbean mother. The
Oh,
Caribbean.
yeah.
I believe it's St. Croix, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My mother's from Trinidad, so again, the Caribbean roots. Eventually, it comes out. The good book said, when you train up a child, when they grow up, they will not depart from your ways. Again, shout out to all the Caribbean parents that were hard on us growing up, but again,
Facts.
it paid off.
Bro, salute. I can salute that 300 times over, man.
Right,
Coming from a Caribbean background, man, that's a whole different conversation within itself.
right.
And my mom was a pretty Americanized, I would say, Caribbean compared to my other friends who have come from the same island. But at the same
Likewise.
time, she did have her ways that was instilled by her mother. And one thing with them, if you know Caribbean parents, they're very into the religion of aspect of life, or at least the majority of them are. And so, my mother was very, strict on like not idolizing another man or woman. So for me, that was like a big thing for me. So even when I interned, like I think of the reason why I advanced so much there because I was willing to do the T-Mobile store appearances. I didn't have to do the big clubs and parties and stuff like that where they knew celebrities were going to be at. Because my thing was I wanted to impress you guys. I didn't want to impress them because they care nothing. Not trying to say it like that, but they didn't really care who I was, especially as an intern. So, but because of that mindset, though, they noticed that and they gave me those opportunities just because they knew they could count on me to go out there and get the job done. So once you realize what you like, for me, the best way to put it, it's like a doctor who's afraid of blood, right? If you're
Hmm.
a doctor and blood makes you squirmish, maybe you shouldn't be a doctor. So when I knew that I wanted to be in the entertainment, like whether on camera or behind camera, I knew that there was a standard that I had to uphold as for myself around certain people. And
Hmm.
so, I've been around a lot of dope people, man. Diddy and Jay-Z and all these people, but at the same time, I don't, outside of like a high and by and doing my job,
Cats
I
is working,
understand.
man. Them cats
Yeah,
is. I've been to a Jay-Z concert. Them cats is working. Them
they
dudes
are
is not
working.
there
They're
partying.
not,
Them
they're
dudes.
not, they're not there to party and and they have their friends. They have their people that they came to kick it with.
Right.
And then the picture is not going to do anything, but just it's going to get the likes. Of course, people are going to be like, oh man, but it doesn't do anything for you. So to hound them for that, it's just not worth the juice is not worth the squeeze. So I
But them dudes,
that
like when you thinking like Diddy kind of like them dudes is always working. That shit is on 24 hours a day. I don't care
right.
if he's in one of his clubs. I don't care if he's, he is in it mentally. It's always a work thing. Like when
Yep.
you reach that level of success, your shit has to be moving the whole time. It's almost like with this show, like it has to be even when you're supposed to be chilling, you're thinking about, okay, what's next? Who's the next guest? What am I going to talk about with my next show? Like it's constantly working, and it doesn't feel like work because you're in your purpose. And
Yeah.
that's
Oh
really,
man.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's really where we're trying to get you guys. You're in your purpose. So it doesn't feel like work, but to the majority of people who've adopted this, like, let's say you would have stayed with that IT job and you're just kind of wishing or hoping shit happens, then
Yeah.
you would be thinking that, they're there to chill and getting the picture with Diddy is going to actually do something, but it really doesn't.
Man, bro, that you killing it, man. That purpose is so huge, man. And that's why I think it's important to figure out what your purpose is, whatever you have to do to find that purpose or what journey you have to walk along it. Because once you live in that purpose, life just I don't want to say gets better because shit happens, but
Mhm.
man, when the shit does happen, it kind of like you walking through shit with a smile on your face. It sounds weird, but it's like you in your purpose. The building's on fire. You know what I'm saying? Things are going crazy, but because you're in your purpose, it's like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like I can't be mad. One thing I say I can never complain about something I prayed for. whether it's
Hmm.
good or bad. If I prayed for it and I was blessed to get the opportunity and things get rough, I can never complain, right? Because
Absolutely.
I asked for this opportunity. Um,
Absolutely.
and that's the purpose. So I'm glad, man, you're like dropping so many gems, bro, because I feel like you get it. You know what I'm saying? You definitely get it.
This
You
you're
get it.
on. This is episode close to episode 450, somewhere around
Yeah.
this. We've had a lot of incredible guests on the show. We don't just bring anyone on the show. We do this for you 5 days a week, and you have absolutely no excuse, especially if you're a regular listener to the show. If you're first time jumping on, welcome to the show. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. This is again like Diddy and Jay-Z and them dudes. This is the purpose. This is what I think about 24 hours a day, where it's constantly moving. And one of the things I do want to make sure we get in before I let you go, though, is the fitness brand that you've created. That's something
Mm-hmm.
that I think is kind of like your baby, and you've kind of started because of the
Yeah.
experience and the seeing people feel good in fitness. So I'll let you kind of explain it, and then we'll close you out.
Yeah, man. So we worked out today, and I appreciate that alley oop there. So we worked out today as my fitness brand, and it all started off with me just saying like, "Yo, if you don't work out today, I got you." And if I get a pull up and a push up, you can say we worked out today. And
Hmm.
it went from just me just talking shit, honestly, like I got y'all, like on some encouragement thing, to where people like, nah, like I like this, and the community started to build from that. And then for me, I took a look at where I was in life, right? I was establishing myself in my career in the entertainment space. So monetary wise, I didn't have to come on here and try to make a quick buck or try to like suck money out of people for like selling workout plans and training. And again, that's no knocks anyone if that's your profession, but that's just not what I needed to do at the time. So I had
Hmm.
an advantage where I could give people game for free, right? It's like, hey, you people reaching out to me asking me workout questions, and then I started realizing that I've always been someone who enjoyed fitness. So it was like, okay, cool. I checked that off. And then I also enjoyed seeing other people achieve things in life. And just being able to like motivate people, whether that's do my videos of me working out or my messages that I drop of just dropping gems that I've been through throughout my life, and to hear that it resonates with people, man, that's pretty much what keeps me going. And we worked out today has been around right before the pandemic happened. That was when we officially launched the about September before. So during the pandemic is when it really grew, because obviously people were in the house trying to figure out ways to work out, and then also mentally trying to stay sharp. As people weren't able to travel and work with others and be outside, it was like confined in their spot. So I was just trying to give them an opportunity to wake up every day with a purpose. And so
Right.
that's what we worked out today is, man, it's a brand where we try to instill purpose as also try to instill the purpose of taking care of yourself physically and mentally. The physical is great, abs is good, but the abs don't mean anything when your mind is in the shit. So I like to I kind of like to keep both sharp and understand that you can have one without the other, but the most successful people have both. And it doesn't mean they have washable abs. They wake up every day, they're mindful of what they're putting in their body. They're mindful of understanding that there's some type of physical activity that has to happen a couple of times a week. And then also mindful of their mental health too, keeping the people around them that's going to help them grow, doing things that are going to make them happy, being with people that are going to make them happy, and living in their purpose. So yeah, that's we worked out today in a nutshell. We're on Instagram. We have a website. We worked out. So it's WORKED out today, spelled TODAY.com. And yeah, so I'm always open, man. If anybody want to have any fitness questions or just something that they need to follow to keep them motivated day in, I try to make sure within my story, at least I'm giving people gems each and every day to keep them going first thing in the morning.
Well, you actually beat me to it. I was, just go. How can people get in touch with you? What's next? What's coming down the pipeline? Feel free to plug away.
Yeah, so we worked out today is at we worked out today on Instagram. And it's spelled WEWORKED to TO day DAY.
Well, I'll
So
show notes. So
yeah, okay, cool. So I appreciate that. So yeah, so that's on my Instagram. I have my own website. What's next is just elevating the fitness brand. Plan on doing some events, some team building events, some networking events within the fitness space. But then I'm also looking to come up with an e-commerce. I'm a big fan of music, so I have an R&B line that I'm going to come out with from a apparel business standpoint. So follow the fitness page. Everything is going to tie back to that. So yeah, man, just super excited, just trying to continue to grow and elevate. And again, man, I love seeing stuff like this, being a part of stuff like this. Like I said, 400 plus episodes, bro. That's consistency. So salute to you.
And
And I
by the way,
appreciate
I'm
that.
here for it because Florida, when it comes to fitness and events, Florida is all about it. So I'm here for that. So we can talk more off camera on that, but we're definitely in for that.
Appreciate you. Yeah, definitely, man. And, yeah, we definitely talk. Okay, man.
All right. So the way I officially close out the show, I want you to use your imagination, Darnell, and just think of, again, now you're a family man now, your father now. Just think of the way you're thinking now and just pretend that the young Darnell, it just came into the room. He's contemplating leaving the game. He's in this IT job. He has so many things going on. Just speak to that young brother and we'll officially close.
Yeah, I would say push him, brother, because two things are gonna happen. Either you're gonna get to where you're going or you're gonna hate yourself for not getting to where you're going. So either way, you guys well push. So just keep going. And you utilize your upbringing, utilize your mindset and your tough skin to get you through the tough times. But I promise you, if you continue to push and stay within your purpose and do things the right way, good things are gonna happen to you, brother.
The mic officially drops. Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.
Yes, sir.